We haven't done this in quite a while, but those of you who were with us in the early days of the Daily Sip may remember that we made frequent reference to a poem by the Sufi poet Rumi called "The Guest House," and it is, I think, just a perfect poem, a perfect intention for practicing during Sukkot. Um, the sukkah, first of all, is a physical structure, represents a house, but of course, it's a particular kind of house. It's got, very flimsy, limited walls. It's open. At least half of one wall is open. The roof does not provide absolute security. It shields from the sun. There's supposed to be more shade than sunlight in the sukkah. It's not supposed to keep out the rain. Rain can penetrate the sukkah. So we sit in the sukkah and we have this experience of shalom, of sense of wholeness and well-being and safety and security. It doesn't necessarily come from a sense of physical security, as a number of the teachers last week um, offered. Uh, Sukkot is a holiday when we really are quite aware of our impermanence, of our finitude, a theme which picks up from Yom Kippur when we really go deep into facing the reality of our own mortality. So it is a kind of stance of radical allowance of what is true just to be. And particularly as we approach this anniversary of October 7th on the Jewish calendar, since it took place on Shmini Atzeret / Simchat Torah in Israel, and all that has unfolded since then, all the pain, all the grief, all the horror that has happened, all the destruction that has happened, and all the feelings, not to mention, of course, the upcoming US elections, et cetera. There are a lot of feelings that are present for most of us. And our practice today is really simply to um, welcome it all, whether they feel welcome to us or not. So I'm going to share the poem. I'll put the words in the chat. I think I can do that here. Oops, that's not it. Sorry, bear with me. And I will, well, tell you what, I'll read the poem. I'll read the poem and then we can use that as a foundation for our sitting together. Here it is. That's the poem, The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. I'll read it again at the end of our practice, but some of you may notice that another theme that poem shares in common with Sukkot is the idea of welcoming in guests. Ushbizin. It's a tradition during Sukkot to welcome in our ancestors, to welcome in, and some have expanded that tradition to include other exemplars or other people that inspire us or comfort us. And in doing so, the traditional liturgy for doing so really involves standing up and literally saying, welcome, 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 come on in, come on in. And Rumi in this poem is exhorting us to do basically the same thing, except in this case, it's for whatever feelings, whatever thoughts, really to expand that, whatever sensations might arrive for us, and to adopt a stance of radical welcoming for them, very much in keeping with the example of our ancestor Abraham, who, as we'll read about in a few weeks in Parsha Vayera, enthusiastically and with zirizut, with passion and alacrity, runs out to welcome strangers So it's not a passive stance, it's actually a very active stance of not just tolerating whatever shows up, but actually seeking out and welcoming, actively welcoming what comes. I find a lot of comfort in this poem because I can sometimes notice thoughts and feelings that are most unwelcome to me, and some of which are anger, shame, guilt, anger verging sometimes on rage, as Rumi puts it, malice, things which I'd rather not feel, or I certainly would rather not admit to, and uh, and of course grief, pain, sadness, all of which are can feel unpleasant. And what this poem does, and what the holiday does, is gives us permission not only to acknowledge these things, but to accept them and allow them to be, and let them do their work, let them serve their function. Because if we do believe, as some of us may believe, that there is divinity and holiness in everything, then there is holiness and divinity even in the things that we might want to push away, repress, or avoid. And if we can allow them to do their job by checking into the guest house, by checking into our sukkah, and checking out when the time is right, um, we might be surprised at what they're clearing us out for at the end. And so we are adopting that stance of being on the lookout, a little bit like Abraham sitting at the edge of the tent or at the entrance to the tent. We're sitting at the entrance of our own sukkah, might be physical sukkah or might be our being, our body. And we're sitting petach ha'ohel, at the opening of the tent right now. And we're scanning, we're looking for the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations that are showing up. And rather than averting our eyes or, or turning away or shutting down, we are allowing ourselves really to notice and say, wow, I am really scared. Or wow, I am really angry. Or wow, I am really fill in the blank for yourself and feel it in our body. Don't push it away. Don't say, oh, that's not helpful. Don't feel that. Or don't think that. That's not helpful. That's not going to lead to anything. And we each can check it out and see how does it feel to let anger visit for a little while, or it checks out, to let grief visit for a little while, well, and then let it check out. Um, and not to rush the process, just to allow ourselves to be open like a sukkah, to welcome and allow whatever is present to be there. So why don't we take a moment now to settle into our place? Take your seat, as always. You might want, if you've been sitting, you might want to readjust yourself, roll your shoulders back, and open the chest space a little bit. Open that up. I find that extremely helpful. I just always like, oh, wow, that feels good. And press the crown of the head up to the sky and root your feet down into the floor. Feel the support of the floor, the chair. We really need that sense of support and steadiness for our practice to feel held. Just to start with that, just to let yourself feel supported and held by the chair, by the cushion, by whatever you're sitting on, or whatever you're standing on, support of the floor, support of your building, and also being aware of what's above us, sky above us, universe above us, the endless universe. So we're very much rooted in our material realm, the earth, but we're also not bound by the earth. We're also aware of everything that lies beyond it, the finite and the infinite, finite and the infinite. And allow yourself to feel supported by the chair, the floor, and also allow yourself feel the support of this group. People that you know, people you don't know, but we're all here supporting each other, showing up at this time, not just for ourselves, but to create this circle of support for each other. to hold all the grief, the pain, the joy, everything that is happening in our lives collectively, to spread it out, help let others carry some of our burden for us with us, to satisfy our yearning to share joy and happiness, satisfy our yearning to share our fears, anxieties, our grief. And so let's just sit for the next 10 minutes or so and stick with those words of Rumi to allow your being, allow yourself to be, and I'll just adapt it to be like a sukkah. And you're welcoming the guests, welcoming all the sensations that come up, welcoming all the thoughts that arise, noticing any inclination to not want to feel those things or see those things or notice those things, and see if you can just let them be, let them check in, let them do their thing. And I'll bring us back at the end by repeating the poem. So let's just sit together and breathe in our sukkah. If and when the mind starts drifting away, just bring yourself back to the question, what or who is knocking at the door right now? What guest is arriving right now? And can I welcome the guest? Can I make them feel at home? And let them check in for a bit, honoring them all. Let yourself be a sukkah. See if you can open yourself a little bit more. Your hands are resting in your lap. See if you can let the fingers unfurl, maybe turn the palms up in a more receptive, open, stance. See if you kind of notice the rib cage expanding as you receive an inhalation, creating more space, letting the breath go a little bit deeper into the belly. Not shutting anything out, being an open house, letting the wind blow in, letting the raindrops in. See if you can really imagine your body as a sukkah, as you're breathing, as if it's moving and shifting and opening with the breeze. Beginning to bring our practice to a close with the words of Psalm 27, Psalm of the season, which extends through this week. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. One thing I ask of the Holy One, ota avakesh. One thing I seek. Shivti bevet Adonai kol yemei chayai. To sit, to dwell in the house of Yud-Heh Vav-Heh. Kol yemei chayai. All the days of my life. Each day of my life, each moment of my life, to be aware of dwelling in this house, in this sukkah. Lachasot ben Noam Adonai, ulevakir behechalo, to gaze upon the beauty, to see the beauty in this world, and just to visit as long as we're here in this temple, this palace. God shelters me, besukho, in this sukkah when times are tough. Yasireni beseter ohalo, grants me protection, shelters me in the protection of the tent, Betsor Yiromamenu, and raises me high upon a rock. So may it be our blessing during Sukkot to be aware of the beauty, to be open, to be receptive actively to everything that comes our way, to not avert our eyes to that which is unpleasant or harsh or painful or frightening. And to feel that we are not alone, to get our strength and our courage from awareness of a power that is greater than us, that gives us the courage to be able to keep our awareness open, keep ourselves open, and awareness of each other's support that makes that possible as well. So if your eyes have been closed or you've been focusing inwardly, begin to bring your awareness back to our group and to the screen. You can open your eyes. And let's close our practice, offering an opportunity for those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard site to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. And thanks to Rachel for sharing the words on the screen. Invite those of you who would like to share the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat now or later after you recite Kaddish to do so. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, as always, we encourage you, please stay present for those who are. And you can join me by rising in body or in spirit and unmuting at this time. Yitgadal, Yashemir,
Yam
Elam and Kol Bechata v'nechamata. Amiram v'yama v'yiru amin. Shalom Rabba min Shemaya. Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yiru amin. Shalom b'mramav. Shalom aleinu v'yakol Yoshvei Tevel. Miru amin.
Kol Yisrael, Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Imru, Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thanks for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, I want to again say Moadim L'Simcha, which is the traditional greeting on Sukkot. We hope to see you tomorrow to practice at our usual time. I see that Yiscah is here. I'm really sorry that not sure what happened, Yiscah. Maybe you can put in the chat. We all want to of course, want to make sure that you're okay. Oh, no problem. No problem. A full sukkah is a good reason. So we will, of course, schedule soon with Yiscah so that we can practice with you and sit with you. Yiscah, of course, we want to send you our love, our blessings for a Chag Sameach, for a good Sukkot for you and for all our friends and family there. And if anyone has any questions about anything that I shared, about the Rumi poem, about Sukkot, about Ushpizin, please feel free to put it in the chat. Thanks for the kind words. And maybe we'll just leave it here for today. Um, and hope everyone will join us tomorrow. Yiscah again. Everything's fine with Yiscah. Um, oh, Laura, you do have a question, so I'll hang on while you formulate your question, and then maybe we'll close a little bit early today. But I want to reassure everyone that everything is fine with Yiscah. Sounds like uh, things got hectic with Yiscah Sukkah in terms of visitors, and so just one of those things that happen. Do I think? Yeah, I wonder if. I mean, Rumi may not have had a sukkah specifically in mind when he composed it, but it is quite perfect. If he didn't have a sukkah, he might have had something, a hut or something like that. Um, let's see. Lori, what are you? Okay, the question. Human nature to be hospitable is so critical to our health, happiness. Rumi was not Jewish. What's the connection? No connection. He was a Sufi. He was a Sufi. And just, there's in the Venn diagram, we've got quite a bit of overlap in the world of mysticism, um, Islamic mysticism and Jewish mysticism, which is a very nice thing to be able to notice. And I think part of that does stem from a fundamental principle of mysticism in general, and certainly of Jewish mysticism specifically, of this idea of non-dualism. That is, that there isn't like there's God and then there's not God. I think one of the basic principles of mysticism is that divinity permeates everything, um, which lends itself to a teaching like Rumi's poem, which says, there's something to be learned from everything. Everything serves a purpose, serves a divine purpose, ultimately. And it doesn't mean that we need to approve of everything, or that we need to endorse everything, or that we need to be resigned to everything. But it does mean that we need to entertain the possibility that there's something that will follow from it. Um, and in the poem, Rumi does speak about. Let me get the words here. I want to make sure. Uh, Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. It's a great line for Shiva, for Shiva. Treat each guest honorably, because each guest, including the sorrows who visit, may be clearing us out for a new delight. Maybe doesn't mean definitely is clearing us out for a new delight. Maybe opening some space for a new delight. So I really especially like the dark thought, the shame, the malice, things that we generally do not want to acknowledge, let alone admit to. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. So you can see that the poem really encourages this proactive stance. And it's making me think of, actually, those of you who are on our email list will receive Rabbi Mira's teaching on Parshat Noach, which is specifically on this. Spoiler alert for those who'd rather read it yourself, but the thrust of it has to do with adopting a stance of proactive receptivity. She describes it as proactive receptivity, and that's how the poem, I think, is describing exactly that. That we're receiving guests, but not in a passive way, not in a reluctant way, but in a proactive way, very much as Abraham does in that Torah portion. What are ushpizing? So ushpizing, I believe, is an Aramaic word for guests, and it's traditional each night of Sukkot to invite in. There's a whole liturgy for this. You can look it up. I'm sure My Jewish Learning has a good simple piece explaining that tradition. But we're basically inviting our ancestors and their merits to come and join us. So this is a little bit, as I mentioned, in non-Orthodox circles, that those guests have been expanded. It's a wonderful place to or creativity to ask people, well, who would you like to have in your sukkah? But that's not exactly what Rumi's talking about. Rumi's saying like whoever shows up is are the right ushpizin.
That is
Um,
exactly what.
is that Yiscah?
That's exactly what happened tonight.
Ah, oh, good. Here you are. What happened? Who
I
came?
am I am so embarrassed, and I just ask everyone to forgive me. What happened was my sukkah became inundated with so many holy souls. I really lost the track of time. I had everything all planned, and this is Yerushalayim. It's Nachlaot, and I didn't expect the beautiful, beautiful entourage of different people coming in to bless my sukkah. And someone asked me, "Aren't you supposed to be leading an IJS sit tonight?" And I looked at my watch. Oh my gosh, I can't believe what happened. So please forgive me, everybody, please. But
Well,
this is an
Yiska, you know
example.
well the gates are open through Shmini Atzeret, and you are on behalf of everyone. I think it's safe to say, I feel authorized to say, you are completely forgiven, and that is a great reason to have lost track. And also really glad to see you, and also really glad there was no real problem other than too many holy guests in your sukkah. So no problem. In Baya.
Tada,
Just
tada for
glad to have you.
your
Just glad to
kindness.
have you here. And also we get a little vicarious whiff, you know, of your sukkah.
It's
So
amazing here what's going on in Yerushalayim, this Sukkot. It's amazing because we so want to be celebrating Simcha, and it's so hard. It's
mhm,
so hard right now, and yet we have to. So
mhm,
we are, and this spontaneous joy of just being in the moment, that's almost beyond logic.
mhm.
It's just phenomenal. And it happened in my sukkah this evening. So
That's great. Well, as long
yeah.
as we have you, can you say a few words to people about the tradition of ushpizing and how what that means for you, like how you do that, if I can ask you that?
Sure, yeah. So it is a matter of inviting certain guests. And in the traditional articulation, we invite seven different men into the sukkah each night, seven different shepherds, seven different leaders, and they're called ushpazin. We also have now ushpaziniyot. We have seven different women who also share the role, the blessing of providing for us leadership and inspiration and guidance. So in some Sukkot, we invite each evening a specific man and a specific woman to join us. And even in Israel, I've seen it even goes beyond the seven traditional mothers and fathers and leaders. It could be people that, in particular, either Zionist leaders or specific teachers of ours, we also invite into our sukkah. We give them a special, I guess you would say, shout out. We give a shout out. So
Mhm,
yes, it's traditionally Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov and Moshe and Aharon and Yosef and David. And it also could be the seven different women, and it can be beyond that. Anyone who you want to invite
mhm,
into your sukkah for a special awareness. It's like a consciousness raising tool and acknowledgement for people who are special in your lives. Invite
mhm,
them into your sukkah.
mhm. Thank you for that. Thank you
You're
for that.
welcome.
Well, I feel like you're one of them today. So listen, Yiska, please let it go. We'll look forward to the next time you're leading us. And it's really a joy to get just to connect with you and vicariously to soak up some of that holiness in your sukkah. And we all send you love
Thank
and
you.
blessings
Right back.
for
Right back. Blessings for all of
the
us.
Chag Okay, everyone. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow at our usual time. Thanks, Rachel, for holding us together. And thanks, everyone, for being here. Wishing again, Moadim L'Simcha to all. Be well, everyone. Blessings.